Hi there, today I wanted to show you how to crochet the feather stitch in the round. What I have in front of me is a water bottle holder that I made using the feather stitch. And I think it's a really pretty textured stitch. And so I wanted to show you how to do this as well. So in order to do this, you'll need to crochet a multiple of 2 stitches, or you could simply just say an even number of stitches in the round. This will also work if you just want to start working directly into a chain that you have joined to create an open bottom round. I am working into a closed bottom round, but it will work the same. Another thing to point out real quick is that I have this orange stitch marker here. You can ignore this. I like to stitch mark my slip stitch. It's a habit that I have, but you do not have to do that, okay? So whenever you see the orange stitch marker, you can just ignore it if you want. Now, we have to build a foundation round for our feather stitches to be worked into. The foundation round is, it consists of some chain ones that create chain one spaces for the legs of our feather stitch to be worked into. So I'm going to show you that. Here's our foundation round. We're going to chain one. We're going to work a half double crochet into this first stitch here. We're going to chain one, skip the next stitch. Then we're going to half double crochet again, chain one, skip the stitch, and then so on and so forth. So I'll show you this for a little bit, and then we can move on. Okay, so I chain one. We're going to half double crochet in this first stitch here. I'm going to, and also another thing I like to do is to stitch mark my very first stitch. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to chain one, skip the next stitch, half double crochet, oops, if I can grab my yarn, that is, half double crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch, or if you're working directly into a chain that you've joined, you would be skipping the chain instead of a stitch, okay? So chain one, skip the next stitch, half double crochet, chain one, skip the next stitch. Okay, so you get the idea here. So these are creating chain one spaces that we will need in order to work our feather stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I'm going to come back here and meet you back here at the end. Okay, so we are at the end of our foundation round. I've worked the final half double crochet, the final chain one, and we are skipping this last stitch here. I am going to remove my slip stitch marker, and we are going to join to the first stitch of the round. I'm going to replace my slip stitch marker, and then we can start our first feather round. To begin the feather rounds, we will chain 2 loosely here. This first chain just gives us a little bit of height for our round, and then the second chain here is really important. I actually recommend that you stitch mark it. This second chain is included in our stitch count for our rounds. It's also what we join to when we're done, and it creates the chain one space here too. So that's why I suggest you stitch mark it. It's a really important chain. Now, an introduction to the feather stitch, okay? So the feather stitch, at least I like to think of it as having 3 legs. The first leg is going to be worked into this chain one space here. And then the second leg dives deeper. It goes 2 rounds below, and it will go directly below where the first leg is worked into either a skipped stitch or a chain one space. So there's a big or statement here with the second leg, and that will make more sense to you later as we work more feather rounds. And then the third leg comes over to the next chain one space where it is worked. So I will show you this. The beginning feather stitch goes like this, okay? You'll yarn over, insert your hook into the first chain one space, yarn over and draw up a loop, and you have 3 loops on your hook. This is what I call the first leg. The second leg is going to dive deeper, like I said. It's gonna go directly below where the first leg is worked, beneath that first chain one space. So we're gonna yarn over, insert our hook in either the insert hook into either the skipped stitch or chain one space. For right now, it is a skipped stitch for this round. So insert our hook into that skipped stitch directly below where the first leg is. And we're gonna yarn over and draw up a loop, and then make sure that you pull these loops up to the height of your current round also. So our second leg will have 5 loops. And then for our third leg, we're gonna yarn over and come over to the next chain one space, insert our hook, then yarn over and draw up a loop, and that will give us 7 loops on our hook. Then to finish, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on our hook. That is the beginning feather stitch. Then to continue on, we're going to chain 1 here. And now we're ready to work our second feather stitch. Okay, so the second feather stitch is just going to go like this. We're going to work our first leg, and the first leg is going to be worked into the same chain one space as the third leg from the previous feather stitch. So yarn over, insert our hook into the same chain one space as the third leg was worked from the previous feather stitch. We're going to yarn over and draw up a loop. Here we have our 3 loops on our hook. Our second leg is going to dive deeper again. It's going to go into this skipped stitch right here that's right below our first leg. We're going to yarn over and draw up a loop. And then our third leg is going to go over here to the next chain one space. Yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over again, draw up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 7 loops on our hook. Then to continue, we're going to chain 1. Okay, so we're going to continue to do this feather stitch, chain 1, feather stitch, chain 1 until we get to the end of the round. You do have to be careful when you get to the end of the round, and I will explain why later. But before we finish here, I just want to show you this one more time. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the same chain 1 space as the third leg was from our previous feather stitch. Yarn over, draw up a loop. Second leg, we'll dive deeper right below our first leg, yarn over, insert our hook into the skipped stitch. Okay, yarn over, draw up a loop. Okay, our third leg, we'll yarn over and we'll insert into the next chain 1 space, yarn over, draw up a loop. Then we yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. That's the next feather stitch, and then we chain 1 to continue. And then, like I said, I will explain why you have to be careful at the very end when we get back. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this for you, and I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, now that we're at the end of our first feather round, I wanted to show you how to finish this off. You can see that there is a gap here, which should feel like there's something missing, and there is something missing. I have not done the very last feather stitch. What we've done is do a feather stitch and then a chain 1, feather stitch, chain 1 all the way around. And you can see that my second to last feather stitch is that way. I've done my feather stitch and a chain 1 here. But to do my final feather stitch, I want to show you what to do here. So I'm going to work my last feather stitch. I'm just going to remove this slip stitch marker too. I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook into the same chain 1 space as the third leg from my last feather stitch, like we've been doing. Draw up a loop. And then for my second leg, I'm going to yarn over, dive down deep 2 rounds below to either the skipped stitch or a chain 1 space. And we have a skipped stitch for this round. I'm going to draw up my loop. Okay. Now for the third leg, we are going to come over here to the same chain 1 space that the first leg from the beginning feather stitch. We're going to place it in that same spot. That was hard for me to articulate, I'm sorry. So third leg is going to share the same chain 1 space as the first leg from the beginning feather stitch. I hope that makes sense now. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to come into this chain 1 space where the first leg from the beginning feather stitch is located, and we're going to pull up our loop there, and then we have our 7 loops on our hook, and we're going to finish this off by yarning over and pulling through. So that was what I meant by, you'll have to kind of watch out and be careful here with this last feather stitch. And then we are not going to chain 1 after the final feather stitch. And you're probably asking why. The reason why is because we already have our chain 1 from the beginning of the round. That's what this is here for. This is going to count for this final feather stitch. It's chain 1 here. Hopefully that made sense too. So we are going to join this final feather stitch to this chain here that we marked, and that's going to count for its chain 1. And then because I like to stitch mark my slip stitches, I'm going to do that. Okay, now here's where it gets a little different from working in rounds. We're actually going to turn at the end of our rounds from now on. But it's important to turn for the rest of the feather rounds. Otherwise, we don't get the proper feather stitch look that we're looking for. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you. We're going to still chain 2 loosely. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch mark that very important second chain. And now we're going to begin our second round of feather stitches. We're going to turn like we're used to when we work rows, and then we're going to do what we've done before and start working our feather stitches. Okay, so beginning feather stitch, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the first chain 1 space here, drop a loop. Okay, now our second leg is going to dive deeper like I've been saying, and it goes into either a skip stitch or a chain 1 space. And now, like I said earlier, this will make more sense later why it would be a chain 1 space, because now there is a chain 1 space. It's not a skip stitch anymore. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the the chain 1 space that is directly below the same chain 1 space as the first leg. So now it's chain 1 spaces from now on for the second leg. Okay, so and then our third leg, we're still going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next chain 1 space and drop a loop, and here we have our 7 loops. We're going to finish off like we have been. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1. Okay, I'll show you this a couple more times. So we're going to work our first leg, yarn over, insert into the chain 1 space, same one that the third leg from the previous feather stitch is using. Then we're going to do our longer second leg. It's going to the chain 1 space directly below the first leg. So we have to dive deeper here, yarn over and pull up a loop, make sure it's the same height as our current round. Go over to the next chain 1 space for our third leg. Okay, and we now have 7 loops, and we can finish this off. And chain 1. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this off, and then I'll show you again how to do that final feather stitch, and then I think that is going to be all that you need to make your own project. Okay, so we are at the end of our second feather round. If you want, it can be quite a bit easier if you just sort of flip your piece over like this, and I could have done it earlier as well. So go ahead and do that if that's easier for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and remove this slip stitch marker, and then I'm gonna show you how to finish this off. It is the same way as we did before though, but I'm going to show you this anyway. Okay, so this is my second to last feather stitch. There's the chain 1 that we do at the end, and then we are going to work our final feather stitch. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the same chain 1 space as the third leg from the last feather stitch. Yarn over, we're going to go down here to the chain 1 space directly below our first leg and make our second leg. Okay, then to do our third leg, we are going to share the chain 1 space with the first leg from the beginning feather stitch. So we're going to come over here and enter that chain 1 space, sharing it with the first leg of the beginning feather stitch. And then we're going to finish off by yarning over and pulling through all 7 loops here. And we are not going to chain 1 at the end of this final feather stitch, because this chain here counts for this feather stitches chain 1 here. So then we're just going to join here to finish off. Oops, I can't get in here though. Finish off this second round of feather stitches. So probably one of the more stranger things to do is to turn when you're doing the round, when you're working the round, to have to turn and work the other way. But it really is necessary for that pretty feather stitch to come to life, if you will. So then we would just go ahead and chain 2 again here. Loosely mark your second chain, and if you're wondering about the color changes, oh, real quick, and then you would just turn, and then you can flip this over again and just work your feather stitches again and make it as long as you want to. But okay, so back to the color changes. I did my color changes after every 3 rounds. I changed colors, and I just changed it when I joined. So if you had that question, that's what I did. And then really quickly, I just want to come back to when I mentioned that you can work the feather stitches into like an open bottomed round. If you want to start right into the chain, this was just an example I started where that foundation round is here. It's worked right into the chain. So when you do the second leg of the feather, you would put your second leg down here into the skipped chain when you are doing this. So after being taught how to do this, I hope that makes sense now. And then it should be the same after that on the subsequent rounds. Okay, I hope that you found this helpful. Thanks.